the night of June 17, 2015, a young white man with a gun walked into one of Charleston's most revered black churches and systematically shot 9 worshipers who welcomed him to their weekly Bible study.
The message is that this is one hateful person that did these dastardly deeds. One hateful person.
The mass shooting, the worst act of violence in Charleston's modern history, gripped the city in grief and horror as police across the Southeast searched for the gunman. That man, Dylan Roof, would later tell investigators that he hoped the carnage in Emmanuel AME Church would inspire a war between the races. Instead, it did just the opposite.
May we be inspired here, Lord.
Oh, God.
May a kindle of flame be ignited in our hearts with love.
There's nothing else that you can call this except for a hate crime, because nobody else walks into a church and kills 9 people, and it can be called anything different.
Less than 48 hours after the killings, relatives of those gunned down inside Mother Emanuel faced the young man who had visited so much misery upon them. In a courtroom confrontation, they showed a compelling grace that would resonate across the nation.
I would never talk to her ever again. I would never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you. And have mercy on your soul.
In the days and weeks that followed, residents of Charleston came together in a display of unity rarely seen in a year marked by riots, unrest, and outrage that followed the deaths of black men at the hands of white police officers across the country. From Ferguson to Baltimore and New York to North Charleston, America was on edge, simmering with racial tension. But in Charleston, the country watched as the community came together with common purpose to denounce the church massacre and the motives behind it. Tens of thousands joined hands atop the Low Country's tallest bridge in a show of solidarity. Hundreds more prayed together in churches, both black and white. Banners and murals proclaiming Charleston Strong unfurled across the city, and the street outside Emmanuel became a sacred place to pray, grieve, and rejoice, as public opinion swelled to finally remove the divisive Confederate battle flag from the State House grounds. Charleston's police chief, Greg Mullen, watched the spirit wash over his adopted city and saw the chance to do something profound and lasting.
That defining moment that happened for us here, it made a difference for the community. You know, it held the community together in terms of, you know, the police, people saw us as, you know, we cared about them, they were important, you know, that this was a blow to everybody. It wasn't just the people that, you know, that died and the families. This was personal.
For more than a year, Mullen and his officers had been working to improve relations and trust with the folks they served, especially in areas that cast a wary eye on police. Now, in the wake of the Emmanuel shooting, he saw a chance to do something bold, to open that dialogue with the community at large and build on the sense of unity the city embraced after the shootings.
This is the launch pad. You know, it's never going to get any more solid than it is right now in terms of people being together and people being unified and people being willing to sit down and figure out how we can do things to make this community the very best it can be.
Thus was born the Illumination Project, a year-long endeavor that would bring together people from a host of disparate backgrounds: doctors, lawyers, community activists, preachers, teachers, and police would discuss concrete ways in which police and the people they served could strengthen ties, trust, and cooperation to make Charleston a better place to live.
We can make some changes because we've got the same common goal to have a very, very safe and secure community. And that particular goal can be accomplished by folks in here. So that's our purpose this afternoon, just to sit down, listen, and discuss workable solutions.
This would not be a series of open mic sessions where folks ranted at the police and rattled off demands, nor would it be a handful of feel-good photo ops in which officers cooked burgers for the locals and then drove off when the cameras stopped rolling. The mission here revolved around straight talk, tough truths, and meaningful ideas, and it would confront difficult topics that brought the community to this place.
Poor, disenfranchised people, they get the short end of the stick. They get all the tickets. Their fines are heavier. Having low income, when you write somebody a ticket for $150, I mean, that's their whole week gone. The poverty line, the old racial status that existed throughout this country. So a lot of that took effect that got to the point of what's the value of minority or a black life. And so those issues had to be addressed, and they're being addressed.
Funded by the nonprofit Charleston Police Foundation, the Illumination Project began in the fall of 2015 with a 23-member steering committee before moving into the larger community. Sergeant Tony Cretella attended one of those early meetings to explain police training methods and introduce himself to the group. He explained that he was an avid runner, a dad, and a husband when he took the uniform off. Just a regular guy. But an African-American woman on the panel told Cretella she didn't see him that way. She saw a man with a gun who might hurt her. The uniform and what it represented frightened her, and that admission startled Cretella.
We're coming from one dimension, and you have to look at the other side of where they're coming from, and it really opened up my eyes, and I thought I was well-rounded as a 35-year-old, and apparently, it shocked me.
Cretella opted to join the process as it moved into the community for a series of listening sessions with residents. There, citizens would gather around tables and share their thoughts on what police and residents could do to improve their understanding and respect for one another.
Well, it's really important that all kinds of different voices are heard. Otherwise, the actions that are being planned and are starting to take place will be one-sided. And so hearing from all the different communities, not just a select few, is critical.
The discussions were frank, complicated, and constructive. The sessions ending with long lists of ideas and long-held notions challenged on both sides.
In my community, I don't know about y'all, we harbor criminals. We let them live there. Citizens in our community, in order to establish a better relationship, we gotta help the police do their job. We gotta start being accountable.
I agree.
Everyone is, even though yes, the police do have some issues, but everyone's running around blaming the police for everything. And none of us are taking responsibility for ourselves.
Police heard what it was like to be the victim of racial profiling, to be deemed suspicious simply because of the color of one's skin. Officers, in turn, complained that they too could be profiled by citizens and judged by the actions of a few bad cops simply because of the uniforms they wear.
So most citizens have been taken back by that, but that's the reality of it. A lot of them that have come to the meetings, they have no ill intent or ill will. They want to be there for the positive outcome of it. And when I say that to them, they kind of sit back in their chair and realize, well, he is right. We are stereotyping all officers when they don't know who I am. They've never dealt with me before. And I've actually made great friends out of this, and they've said, I appreciate you coming out here. I know you as Tony Cretella and not Sergeant Cretella, and I really respect you for that.
One of the participants, Victoria Melendez, said it was encouraging and uplifting to hear people have an honest dialogue and confront biases and preconceptions rather than allowing these problems to fester.
I think one of the most important components of this discourse is humanizing everyone involved. And when you have a monochromatic group, it's just really easy to think, well, this is how all people see the world. But when you have diverse perspectives, you begin to connect things differently. And when you see someone that looks like someone that you've sat across a table from, you're more inclined to relate, you're more inclined to have empathy and to see that there are others that hold a different worldview, and that's not a bad thing.
Though more than 600 people turned out for the sessions, noticeably absent were folks from some of Charleston's more troubled neighborhoods, places where the struggle pitting public safety and civil rights could be a delicate balancing act. Dot Scott is president of the NAACP's Charleston branch. She's a longtime civil rights activist and a frequent critic of what she perceives to be heavy-handed police tactics that target the minority community. Scott has become a believer in the Illumination Project and what Mullen is trying to accomplish. But she says no one should be surprised that people in low-income neighborhoods have been reluctant to take part in the dialogue. Many have long memories about negative experiences with police, and they remain distrustful.
When the justice system doesn't work, and then you ask us to work with the justice system, are they really ready to listen?
Scott notes that the Illumination Project got underway just about a year after community protests over the death of a young man named Denzel Cornell. He died in a shooting at a local housing project while tussling with an officer. Authorities ruled that Cornell shot himself with his own gun, but many remain skeptical.
Folks are just not trusting. Even 9 dead people in Emmanuel, it's not going to erase that in a year. It's just not happening.
Charleston's East Side is one neighborhood where police have labored to earn trust while trying to keep a lid on violent crime and drug sales that once made this area one of the most dangerous places in the city. Crime has eased there in recent years, and one of the biggest threats these days is gentrification, which threatens to push longtime families out as real estate values climb. One reason for the change is a heavy police presence and a strong emphasis on officers interacting with the community. 50-year-old Benjamin Brown has spent most of his life on the East Side, and he says he generally has a healthy respect for police and the work they do. But Brown said some officers take their jobs too far and hassle law-abiding citizens for no good reason.
A couple of days ago, I live right on Nassau Street. I'm sitting on my steps. They stopped and said, what are you doing right here? Why? Because I'm a black man and I live in a big house? Let me see some ID. You don't have to see my ID. I own my own property. Like I said, though, you got some good police, you got some bad police. That's anywhere you go. You got good people, you got bad people.
Sergeant Damian Seabrook can see both sides of the equation. He grew up in a gritty downtown neighborhood and knew his share of tough guys who ended up on the street corners. Some saw no other choice. Now in charge of community policing patrols on the East Side, Seabrook said he tries to treat everyone with respect and dignity, but he expects the same in return. And he worries that some folks fail to see behind the badge and see the person inside the uniform.
I think a lot of people don't realize we're human. I'm no different than you. I put on a uniform, I have a job to do. You come to work, you have a job to do. We have the ability to take somebody's freedom, really cause some complications for the average citizen. But here's the problem. I'm just that same citizen too, I don't put a microchip in back of my head and transform into this super cop. Officers don't do that.
Seabrook said he has seen the Illumination Project making a difference in breaking down these barriers because both sides approach each other with respect.
When you come in the Illumination Project, it should be simple. I'm going to listen to you, you're going to listen to me. We're going to respect each other whether we agree or not.
In the end, he thinks it will help people reevaluate how they feel about police officers. The more people understand each other, the fewer walls remain between them.
You could be the worst enemy of the police, but if you come one day and jump in this car and put in this uniform, you may at the end of the day still have a disdain for policing, but you're not going to walk away having a 10. You might walk away having a 6, but you're not going to walk away having a 10. I promise you that.
For Margaret Seidler, this approach is at the root of what makes the Illumination Project work. She's a Charleston resident who has brought her expertise in so-called polarity thinking to the process. The idea is to take conversations from the standpoint that divergent viewpoints are deserving of both respect and legitimacy. The idea is to get groups to explore, understand, and appreciate views and values different from their own, so that a common path might emerge to lead from contention to consensus.
This is an opportunity where each person, regardless of their status in the community, has their voice heard. Whatever your status is, whatever your authority is, your voice is the same. That is the basic democratic principles at play for me.
Mullen has already begun tweaking the department's policies and procedures based on input from this group. He has launched efforts to make the police force more transparent about its tactics. That willingness to listen and the opportunity for change is winning over skeptics, the Reverend John Paul Brown said.
It helps because of the people who thought that they never had a voice found out that they did, who thought they could never talk to the chief or talk to the mayor or talk to the official. They found out that they can come to a session, listen first, and put their concerns on the table, the balance between public safety and citizen right, and it's been working.
Seidler has also seen benefits on a more personal level. She's met dozens of folks she might never have crossed paths with and come away with a greater appreciation for the viewpoints of all involved.
I mean, I can't tell you the number of people who have come out and said, I feel like I've been enlightened. And that's a powerful word. For me personally, I feel that in some ways it's really transformed me. That I'm a different person and a better person.
Samantha Samus lives on Charleston's east side, runs a nonprofit laundry that also offers computer classes, a weekly Bible study, and other programs to help the community. She's also a member of the Illumination Project Steering Committee. Samus and others in the group say Charleston has its share of racial tensions and other problems, but they see hope in the spirit that has lingered after the Emanuel tragedy.
So I hope the legacy is really a model for the nation, a model for America, and when people are speaking of racial reconciliation, when they're speaking of compassionate, empathetic responses to events like these, they think of Charleston, and they look to us, and they follow us, and they think of us as a really positive example and a leader in how to respond compassionately to events like this.
Seidler and Mullen see promise as well in their approach, being replicated in other cities. To that end, they are working with a team of researchers from the College of Charleston to see what works and what doesn't over time.
My hope is if we can take a both-and approach to a very complex issue and recognizing that we need to have both public safety and individual rights all in service of a community that has strong relationships between police and citizens, yes, I mean, this complex issue is something that faces every part of America.
Still, much work remains before the project can be deemed a success. The tragedy at Emanuel brought people together and paved the way for efforts like the Illumination Project, but hurdles remain in the path to true solidarity. Deep economic disparities exist in the community. Many schools in the Charleston area are racially segregated and unequal, and critics continue to accuse police agencies of racially profiling and mistreating minorities, a cry that drew national attention after the shooting of Walter Scott by a North Charleston police officer last year. Whether or not they succeed, Mullen said the community owes it to those who died in Mother Emanuel to try.
This isn't a perfect situation. This isn't a perfect place. It's just that we have an opportunity now to take a tragedy and turn it into something very positive because of what has happened here. And I just really felt compelled that if I didn't do this, or if I didn't try to do it, that I would be, I'd be letting those folks down.